Good morning, dear whales, dear ghosties. Let me see. Let me see if what is happening with the audio, with the video. All right, content. Lorenzo, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you hear me okay. Let me just check it out. How come I'm not seeing this? Oh, here we go. Huh? Okay, I think the voice is here. Everything is working. Should be working at least. Okay. Mr. Adike, good morning as well. So, very interesting discussion. I'm extremely excited about today's presentation. So I would like to take a quick segue today from Vita Money, although I'm going to be referring back to it. And I would like to demo another piece that has been finally finalized yesterday. It's going to go live tomorrow for all of you guys to see, but that's another very, very shareable piece that I would love to cover a little bit in advance. Although theoretically we should be covering this like in 2 or 3 weeks if you just to follow the order. But essentially that piece is called titled how to become like how to get your allocation of Ghost. And the reason why that's very important is because kind of like there have been two biggest questions from validators regarding why why they should join Ghost ecosystem in the first place. And of course, when it comes down to vision, so we having more and more vision-oriented conversations in Wales, which is exactly what we need to be having. This is like the most important conversations. But when you are cold reaching out to validators, they oftentimes don't care. They oftentimes don't care about the vision. They don't have much time to how to say it, to absorb it. And another thing is the Web3 space itself did a pretty poor thing by overpromising. Like lots of projects, remember ICOs like overpromised the world and never delivered. Not only did not deliver, but scammed everybody. So now the perception, the level of trust needs to be so much higher for anybody to truly trust, to perceive you honestly as a project. And of course, kind of Ghost has to go through lots of noise in order for that to happen. But I will be covering that other article that I shared with a couple of whales already that liked it, it seems like, but would love to hear more points. So the reason why I would like to take a segue is because that new article is so freaking fresh. It's right there, and it's extremely shareable. And it's going to go live tomorrow. So starting tomorrow, maybe Monday, you'll be able to start sharing with whoever. So I'll be covering that other article, though, from perspective of Vita Money as well. And then if we have time to finish it up, then we're going to go back to Vita today. If not, then we'll resume Vita on the next call. But Ching, good morning as well. For you, I think it's actually probably good evening. So let me share the article, this one. So titled "The Only Way to Earn a Ghost Genesis Allocation," and the two questions that validators have been asking outside, well, they never really asked about vision much. They asked the first question about what are the incentives for running a node? And then the second question was one mainnet. These are the two questions. So this article is answering what incentives does anybody have. So if you have any whales that you could bring, this is one of the articles to share with them. This article is going to be just one piece. Although I think it's 5 articles in one, 5 articles within a one article, so it could have been easily split into multiple. And I spent the entire week writing it with all the kind of plans and all the structure and also research. So lots of stuff went into it. Hopefully, you guys will appreciate it. So let's go. So upon analysis of kind of I'm doing the analysis of the rest of the Web 2.5 Web 2.5 space, maybe every single 6 months. But this time I kind of dived deep into certain protocols that I did not um, analyze prior, such as Ton, the Ton coin, for example, Tron by itself, Solana, Hyperliquid, which is like the best freaking whatever on-chain exchange and stuff. So we'll see what type of on-chain that is. And the reason why that need to resonate with Vita is if we are bringing new type of money, Vita money, they have that money, especially Web3 rails of that money, has to make sure that all people in the world do have access to it. Of course, we cannot guarantee literally all the people in the world because you still need to have electricity, you still need to have internet connection. So, like, we cannot physically encompass everybody, like every single human being, every single person from the 8 billion kind of people civilization right now. But as long as you have some type of internet and some type of electricity and some type of computer, that should be enough for you to join the Ghost ecosystem and therefore be part of the Vita money. And that's exactly what should separate money from just a technical project. And you'll see what I'm saying. So, validators, the first is, are you tired of Web 2.5 bullshit, right? Because it really is like, the more I'm looking into this, I'm like, oh. So, these projects, they obviously all call themselves decentralized permissionless, but you know about that. Like I told you many times. So, they're decentralized, meaning, they're, lots of nodes are controlling, maintaining the networks, so, allegedly. They're very permissionless, of course. Permissionless meaning that anybody can run a node. Anybody in the world. As long as you have a computer, and electricity, and internet, you should be able to run a node. And of course, APY. APYs are through the roof. Like, just become a validator for chain XYZ, and yes, you will absolutely get this magnificent APY. You'll get like super high level, earnings on your whatever, on your collateral, on your money. Okay. The reality of the situation is this. So, like, quickly introducing Ghost here. And the very first thing is, I did not realize, but we are the first truly permissionless proof of stake chain. Ghost is the first permissionless proof of stake chain. That is official. Now, I was quite, hard to say, quite fearful to put such a loud statement prior. But upon analysis, I'm very confident that that is the right statement. Ghost is the first permissionless proof of stake chain. Let's go. So, in order to run a proof of stake blockchain, you need to have two things. First of all, you need to have hardware, whether it's your physical hardware in your house or office or whatever, or storage place, or a VPS, virtual server. So that's the first requirement, right? So you have to have a hardware requirement. Second requirement is the stake. So how much of a given coin do you need to lock in order to validate? And the reason why you need to have a coin, the reason why it's proof of stake, is because if you are a good validator, you're going to be earning the APY, right? If you are a malicious validator or just a not very reliable validator, then you will be slashed. But in order to slash you, you need to lock in a stake from which to slash you. Slashing just means punishing. So let's assume the stake is whatever, 10 Ethereum, whatever. 32 Ethereum. If you are going to be misbehaving or just going to be unreliable meaning that your node is just not operating, then you will be slashed. Like, there are different layers of being slashed, but let's assume if you have been unreliable for like a week, hypothetically, instead of 32 Ethereum, now you have 30 Ethereum. So you just lost 2 Ethereum. So what's the upside? The upside is you earning the APY, right, from validating. Now, we'll also look at what the APY is comprised of. That's also very important. But first things first. let's go from through the hardware requirements specifically, just hardware requirements, nothing else, right? So this box, by the way, the format is inherited from the visual capitalist. So whoever comprised that chart, good job. So this one box is equivalent to $5 worth of monthly server cost. Okay, so you're paying $5 a month for a server, and that's one box. So for example, in case of Ghost, the requirements are extremely tiny. So it's literally the only proof of stake that can be run on your home device, on your home machine. Why? 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, 6 gigabytes of RAM, you don't need this forever. You only need 6 gigabytes of RAM just to compile a node. Somebody in Wells yesterday said, "Oh, like why do we put 16 gigabytes of RAM requirement?" I think they just kind of confused it. It was 6, not 16. And the person said, like, yeah, it's only taking like 2 gigs of RAM of operating system to maintain the node. Now, that 2 gigabyte of RAM comprised of what? It's comprised of the operating system itself, which based on our analysis takes about 400 megabytes. And then the actual node is 1.6 gigs. So let's assume you have two nodes. What you could do hypothetically on the same machine, you could just reuse the same operating system for 400 megabytes and then just do 1.6 gigs per node 1 and then another 1.6 gigabytes for node 2 and so on. But in any case, 6 gigabytes to compile the software, and then after it's compiled, 2 gigs is fine. It's running. And some users were able to compile the node even on Raspberry Pis as low as 2 gigs. Of course, that's a testnet. Now the question, will that be changing for the mainnet? The answer is no, it's not going to be changing for the mainnet. It's not like we're going to be left with the same minimal requirements that takes about $5 a month. There are some servers that could potentially take lower, but this is Cont'd, for example, that's about $5 a month. Okay, so that's one box. Now, how all these have been calculated? Well, we took the minimum requirements. So, for example, Cardano node is 24 gigs of RAM, 2 cores, and 240 gigabytes of storage. Okay, fine. Now, for that specific machine, you also need not just 24 gigabytes of RAM, but you also need 2 gigahertz of frequency, and that would get together as far as the monthly expense at roughly $65. So, like if you count all these boxes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 boxes here plus another 3, so 13 boxes total times 5, 65 bucks. Roughly $65 a month. And what type of server, like VPSs, have been checked? Well, Google Cloud, that's because they just have, the most available calculator. But I also checked DigitalOcean, we also checked Cont'd. So essentially, these are kind of like the easier choices, like the most affordable choices for the servers for the time being. Right? So we're not trying to over-exaggerate when it does not need to be over-exaggerated. But in any case, Ghost, because I thought that before, Cardano, Ethereum also affordable. You'll see, are they affordable or not? You'll make a decision. My argument that it's not, absolutely unaffordable. So, but Ghost is, and the reason why we are kind of the first permissionless proof of stake chain is because you don't need to buy a server. You can literally just have a home machine on which you're working, create a virtual machine inside of your home computer, home PC, whatever, Mac, and dedicate 6 gigs of RAM, maybe even 4 gigs of RAM. If you do 4 gigs of RAM, it's probably going to just take you longer to compile the node, but you only really need just 2 gigabytes of RAM for that virtual machine. And that's it. So typically machines today have 8 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of RAM, right? Like some even have 32, unlikely, but still, and more powerful. And 2 gigs is nothing for the node to be running. So literally available on your home computer. That's how Bitcoin was born. That's how it was built. Same way. Bitcoin has very similar requirements. Okay? The Bitcoin node. Now you can say, wait a second, but what about all the ASIC machines? What about like all these farms and mining farms? Yes. These mining farms exist. These mining farms exist because the market decided that kind of in order to be competitive, that's what the hashing rate should be. But to compile the node and to become be part of the Bitcoin network, you do not need these requirements. Meaning the protocol, on the protocol level, the Bitcoin protocol will not limit you if you have low requirements, such as like similar to requirements of Ghost. Okay. So go Cardano. So again, I thought Cardano was affordable, sure, but 24 gigs of RAM, 2 cores, 250 gigs of storage sounds okay. But then on top of that, you take 2 gigahertz of frequency and now that's $65 a month. Still potentially affordable, but let's look at what do you get. So you get some type of inflation. Typically, so the APY, I'll show that later. I think the APY is about 2%, 2.3%. However, from that APY of 2. So you're like, okay, cool. So you can do the math, right? You can say, okay, cool. Let me put like whatever, $2,000, right, or whatever, or $10,000, and at some point of time, my server cost will be paid off by the APY. Not so fast, because the APY here comprised of only 3% of transactional fees. The other 97%, that's inflation. So you're getting 2.3%, 97% of which is just inflation. So the token is just inflated in supply. Okay? Meaning that you're losing the purchasing power of the token. So the reality is you're only getting 3% of that 2.3% APY, which is nothing. So you net negative with Cardano, even with Cardano. And Cardano is the best of the worst, outside of Ghost, of course. Instead, he's asking, as Ghost grows, do you foresee there being Ghost server farms being born? Let me answer like really fast. So far, we took the same approach as Polkadot, and Polkadot's co-founder, CEO, whatever, ex-CEO, Gavin Wood, who is the ex-CTO of Ethereum, and the creator of the term Web3. So how they did it with Polkadot, how we're doing this with Ghost. It does not matter how much is your stake. Ethereum actually did the same thing, following Polkadot's model. So it does not mean how much Ghost coins you have, or Casper coins you have. It just does make sense for you to lock in more Casper coins than required. So if the minimum in our case on the testnet is 6.9 Casper, you are really not benefited when you stake more than 6.9 per node. Like, you're not getting anything extra. Yet, the slashing is a percentage. So let's assume you stake 69 Casper instead of 6.9, you're getting slashed by, say, 10% slashing. So if you staked only 6.9, you would be slashed by 0.69 Casper. But if you staked 69 Casper, you would be slashed by 6.9, right? Like, so, but the benefit is the same. The upside is the same. The upside is not like, if I have 69 Casper and Mr. AK, you have 6.9 Casper per your node, our node will get the same exact, not percentage, the same exact fixed reward for validating, comprised of bridging fees and transactional fees. So, how, like, can we have farms? Sure, we could. Thing is, the nodes will still have to, like, it's a great method to make sure that the nodes are still decentralized. Like, it makes no sense to have massive stake per one node. So if you have a lot of, like, if you have a huge stake, then you will have to, like, you almost will have to launch lots of nodes yourself to maximize the upside per nodes. Cosmos. Now you see how many yellows. So I'm not going to say how much it is, but you can see. Now here's the thing with Cosmos. Also, like somebody came. I remember maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, we had somebody in Whale like, oh, how is Ghost different from IBC bridge, whatever. And again, we just don't have time to respond to every single freaking bridge because there's so many bridges out there, all centralized. Like, let's spend every single, like, if somebody paid me $1 every time I was asked about, like, is this bridge decentralized or centralized, I'll be a very rich man right now, because it's really kind of fed up with this. But look at this: validated stake concentration. So essentially, the top validator controls 14% of the entire stake. 6 validators control 35% of the stake. 12 validators control 52% of the stake, and 30 out of 200. 30 validators out of 200 control 75% of the freaking stake. Is that decentralized? You be the judge. Okay? So imagine how much freaking stake you have to put in to compete with these freaking guys, right? And it's all limited to 200 validators. Decentralized, huh? So they made a decision. The initial validator set was limited to 180 validators. Then they made a proposal, and it got expanded to 200 validators. Now there are 200 validators. Mr. Adike, you remember, and Lorenzo, I'm pretty sure you guys remember that our first testnet had 150 validators, right? And we'll get them soon. But look at the requirements: 32 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage. Like, that's not a home machine already. That is not a home machine. That is a server. So now, like, think about this. Like, if you want to validate for Cosmos, and that is going to apply for every single blockchain, like post Cosmos. If you want to become a validator for Cosmos, what do? You either have to assemble a machine of this sort, of this caliber, and it's 32 gigs. Like, oh, it's easy. No, it's not. It's not that easy. It's not. Well, it's doable if you techie. Of course, it's doable. But if you're like some random dude, average non-techie person, good luck. Good luck doing this. Good luck setting this up. It's very, very like it's computational intensive too, and potentially electricity intensive. Not as much as Bitcoin, but somewhat related to it. And like that's just without the stake, right? So if you buy the machine, fine. But of course, as a non-techie, for example, what would you do? You're gonna go and buy a server with a credit card. So you just KYC'd yourself. Congratulations. So for every single blockchain post Cosmos, you essentially need to KYC yourself. That's it. That's Cardano, 24 gigs. Maybe argument is maybe you can still kind of like do this on your home machine. Cosmos is already too difficult. So possible, but difficult. So what kind of blockchain is that? What kind of Web3 space it is where everybody needs to KYC themselves? Because you push your credit card information, your address, your phone number, your freaking name, everything, your email, everything is there. Congratulations. That's the state of Web3 today. That's why, like, before I was kind of like, is it like, can we say that? Do you have the, the balls, is it really true that we are the first permissionless proof of stake chain? Yes, we are. Ghost is the first permissionless proof of stake chain. That is the message. And whoever disagrees, send them this article and let them argue with facts, not with the shit they read on a fucking CoinDesk paid advertising wise article. Ethereum. I thought Ethereum was permissionless. 16 gigs of RAM. I was mistaken. 16 gigs of RAM, 4 cores, 2 terabyte storage, more than Cosmos. It's a pretty heavy machine. Outside of $140,000 of minimum stake. How is that permissionless? $140,000. Now you say, well, but Ethereum has lots of stakers, like million stakers. One of the whales like put the stats. That's absolutely correct. Of these stakers, of this 1 million whatever stakers, a lot. I agree. 0.5% is solo stakers. That's it. That's your decentralized set. Everybody else is Lido protocol and all the other freaking liquid staking sexes like Binance and Coinbase, etc. So that's what we have. That's the state of, and that's Ethereum. That like maybe you can argue like maybe Cardano, Cosmos, like let's assume these are the top blockchains as far as permissionlessness outside of Ghost. It's gonna get worse. Like we're just beginning. It's gonna get worse. Again, guys, it took me an entire week to assemble this. There's lots of freaking stats. It's getting worse. All right, so yeah, so amazing 0.5% for decentralization, huh? Of course, like the biggest question for Ethereum is why the hell did they increase the requirement so high? Because they could have just stayed with 4 gigs of RAM. Like, why increase it? Why make it so difficult? And I think they said 16 gigs of RAM is fine, but 32 is even better. I think that's what literally they say on the Ethereum Foundation.org website. Polkadot. Excuse me. Polkadot. So, but wait, isn't Ghost like emulating stuff from Polkadot? Yes, we are. Then the question is, how come Ghost is so non-intensive and Polkadot is? And that is perhaps the only criticism of Polkadot, because Polkadot is a genius project. Now, why do they require 32 gigs of RAM, 8 cores, 2 terabytes of storage? Why? Because it's a multi-chain concept. So Polkadot has parachains and then parathreads. So it's like this like pretty enormous type of architectural design. And as a validator, the Polkadot itself would not like substrate-based core of just Polkadot relay chain would not take relay chain, the main chain, would not take that much as far as machine requirements. But as a validator, you need to validate for all the other parachains as well and parathreads. So here's the stats. So check this out. So roughly, like based on the current telemetry, let's assume there's about 300 networks. So you're not just validating one network, you're validating 300 networks as a validator. So of course your requirement is going to be through the roof. And with Ghost, the question is like, wait a second, aren't we doing the bridging? Yeah, we're doing the bridging, but you don't have to validate every single chain. When we do bridging, say Ethereum and Avalanche and whatever, and Polygon, you don't have to be a validator of Ethereum and validator of Polygon and validator of Avalanche. You just have to be a validator of Ghost. Now, you have to listen to smart contracts, to gatekeepers, which is super non-intensive, right? Now, Polkadot's design could have been significantly eased had they only been validating the relay chain by itself. And that's the biggest criticism like we have, is that essentially validators still need to spend significant amount of resources out plus the stake. That's just hardware plus the stake. Stake is on top of it, right? In order to validate all these like 300 plus blockchains. But look at how many nodes these blockchains have. Meaning, look like these pirate chains. Look at how active these pirate chains are. So, absolute majority, 206 networks within Polkadot ecosystem only have up to 10 nodes. So they have no users, no liquidity, no nothing. You still need to validate it though, as a validator. And that's the criticism, right? So it's fine, but all right. I think we are going to go further. Ton. Oh, everybody, Ton. The hamster combat. Ton is a killer of Ethereum. Yeah, killer of Ethereum. Like 128 gigabytes of RAM. Like when we discuss this with the team, like it's definitely not a home machine anymore. It's a fucking enterprise now. Absolutely enterprise storage room or high, heavy VPSs. It's impossible to have it in any other way. 120 gigabytes of RAM, 28, it's insane. 16 cores, fuck me, and 1 terabyte of storage. Let's not forget that the minimum stake of Ton is just $1 million, because everybody fucking has it, right? Everybody has $1 million to put. Right? So, like, when some people come and say, oh, like, Ghost is so difficult to run, the guides are not there, whatever. Fucking try to run Ton. Like, be my guest. Because before, like, I would even be maybe apologetic, like maybe the guides are difficult, I don't know. Try to run the fucking Ton network. I guarantee you guys, by the way, all this stuff that, like, all the descriptive guides that Ghost has, half of these protocols, if not 2/3, do not have the information available online. It's extremely difficult to find that info. Like, you have to dig and dig and dig and dig. Which is the reason why it took so long, like the entire week of digging, 24/7 digging. Very difficult. Now, for example, what they bullshit everybody about is 4.6% APY. So okay, fine. So I'll put $1 million. It's a business proposal, right? Like I'm a businessman. I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, entrepreneur. Let's fucking look into the details here. So okay, you can put $1 million. Okay, fine. Let's assume you borrow it somewhere at the bank. But you can earn 4.6% APY, right? Yeah, if you're fucking stupid, you'll just trust every single number they put. But if you try to dive anywhere deeper, first of all, they publicly announced that the inflation is 0.6%. That's already good, right? Because if the APY is 4.6% and inflation of the token is 0.6, the net gain is just 4%. Not 4.6, 4%. Now, it depends. If you have $1 million, cash, put it in the stock market because you're going to grow it at like this year it went up 30%. Gold went up also 30%, like last year, right? So if you put it in US savings account, you're going to make 4%. Same thing as with Ton. But Ton is and then they're going to proceed. But Ton is the future. Ton has so many users. Ton is the reflection of Telegram. Ton is a public stock of Telegram. No, it's fucking not. It's a blockchain that nobody's fucking using. How come I know that nobody's using it? Because the transactional fees is only 0.3%. Nobody uses this fucking chain. Now, but how is this 4.6% even is comprised of? Thing is this. They decide to misguide everybody. Oh no. They say public inflation is 0.6%. What does it mean? Newly minted tokens 0.6%. But they made a pre-mine. And then from the pre-mine, they send subsidies, which is a temporary event, to the validators. And they don't call that inflation. Why? Because it's not freshly minted, right? It has been minted before. But that's bullshit, right? Because what happened is this, how do I care that it was minted before or not? Essentially, let's assume they minted 1 billion coins or whatever. They locked in 100,000 coins in a smart contract. They're not using that smart contract. And from there, they are dripping 3.7% into validators' wallets. How is that not inflation? And the reason why it's not inflation, technically, because it has been pre-mined. So what? Right? Like, again, you guys will see things like that. Always have, like, Solana is the last one. Same thing. So Ton is call themselves permissionless, amazing, everybody's using this chain, but in reality, only 0.3% is organic APY, as we call it. Everything else is synthetic APY. So 4.3% is synthetic APY. So you have to put $1 million stake. You have to put this insane enterprise heavy machine, probably buy this through VPS, and you're going to get 0.3%. When I share this to somebody who's completely non-technical, the first question was, can I just put money in the bank instead? And that's literally what you should be doing. Now, what type of money does Ton represent? Remember I said that I would like to go back and forth with Vita. What type of money do they have? Like, is that like a, people money where I can control it? Is it for people? Thing is, this is Ton and all the others, and previously in Polkadot, unfortunately as well, they are B2B plays, enterprise plays, pretending to be Web3. They have no fucking vision, no positioning whatsoever. They're not going to disrupt anything. They are positioning themselves as a technical company like Oracle, for example, or IBM, or Apple, or whatever, right? Hewlett Packard, for those of you guys who remember. Xerox. Well, Xerox is hardware, whatever. But you got the point. They're not positioning themselves as money because there's nothing money-wise there. They're not new money, period. That's why they suck. That's why Bitcoin is literally the only asset today that stands for something and actually does something as far as economic properties, as we described before, as far as inelasticity, limited supply, scarcity, etc., right? Ton does not have any of these properties. It's just a technical project. It's a technology play. So I can invest in Apple, I can invest in IBM, I can buy a little bit of whatever, Nvidia, and let me also get Ton. That's how it is. Let me get a little bit of Polkadot into my portfolio. It doesn't change anything. That's not Web3. This is not Web3. How many people have $1 million to put? Well, they have 300 stakers. Yes, they have 300 stakers because these stakers did not realize yet that they're only getting 0.3%. They're just not understanding that yet. Once they understand that, we will see. This, right? Like that's what's happening. Like this is the chart. Transactional fees green, which is organic APY, actually like usable, like actually sustainable APY. The rest is synthetic APY, the red. That's done. Good job. Good job. Go on. Also, I was under the impression, first I was like, it's a centralized piece of shit. Then I'm like, oh, no, they're probably very good. So my opinion changed too. But now I'm kind of like tending towards the former as opposed to the latter. So they have 27 validators. That's it. Protocol limits Tron to top 27 validators. Bitcoin is not the same. With Bitcoin, for example, if you heard the news or not, last week, a solo miner earned like 350 grand worth of Bitcoin. The solo dude somewhere, absolutely somewhere. Here, you need to be one of the top 27 validators. Who are those top 27 validators today? Of course, Tron says anybody can be it. Of course, anybody can be it. But, if you are an average person, good luck competing with Poloniex, which is one of the major exchanges, like one of the oldest exchanges in crypto, Binance, HTX, OKX, and no way, Google Cloud. Google Cloud, it's one of those 27 validators. Check the information. I have all the links. Everything is completely backed, stored, documented. I have every single proof for everything that I'm saying here. So Google Cloud is right there. Congratulations, Binance, Poloniex, HTX, OKX. So every single time. Now, why Poloniex, HTX, Binance? Because you go to this exchange and you stake through this exchange. Why? Because running a node is so damn difficult. Okay, it's difficult, so fucking do this for Poloniex and wait for Poloniex, God forbid, to get hacked. Everything will be stolen. Everything, all your positions will be stolen too. But guess what? It was easier to stake through Poloniex than to figure out how to run a node. So again, to people who say Ghost node is difficult to run, this is one box. It's one fucking box. And this is Tron. See how many boxes? That's not the stake. That's just hardware. Plus the stake. The minimum stake to become one of those 27 validators is only $250 million. Nothing major. Everybody has this. Is pocket fucking cash. You go to Chuck and Cheese, and instead of 25 cents, you're fucking putting a coin worth $250 million to listen to the music. That's Tron. Essentially the most adopted medium for Tether. It's Tron. Do we still need to create a bridge for them? Sure, why not? But that's what it is. It's crazy. It's absolutely freaking insane. Okay? Any questions about, requirement 64 gigabytes of RAM, 32 cores. Yeah, any machine has that. And 3.5 terabytes of storage. God, it's not a home device. Like, no way it's a home device. No, and the VPS costs a lot. It's crazy. We're not done though. Hyperliquid. Somebody suggested Hyperliquid, so I had to look them up. That's the next revolution. Hyperliquid is changing the game, guys. Changing the fucking game. Yeah, they do. Because they're so fucked up. They only have 24 entities validating the network. 24. Tron has 27. So with Hyperliquid, anybody can become a validator, no problem. Yeah, as long as you're one of those 24 entities. 68% of all validator stake is, of course, controlled just by 5 nodes that belong to the team. That's decentralization in my book. So just to recap, 5 nodes control 68% of the validator stake, and the other 19 validators control the remaining 32% of the stake. I have all documents, links, all the proof. This is official stuff. I'm not finding this on Reddit or Stack Exchange. I'm finding this on their websites. They are bragging about it. It's not that they don't think this is bad. They're bragging about how decentralized this is. Minimum stake is just 440 grand. Everybody has this pocket cash. Okay? The reality, though, is while the protocol minimum is 440, the actual minimum is 136 million. Because you need to qualify to become those 24 entities. $136 million. That's the actual stake. And of course, the machine is 128 gigabytes of RAM. It's insane. And 24 cores. Insane. Absolutely insane. Look at these boxes. Another idea how to position this was actually to maybe put one yellow, how many nodes is equivalent to one Hyperliquid node? How many nodes of Ghost is equivalent to and we can count. This is 10. So it's I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3. So roughly 25. So this is 250 nodes. So one Hyperliquid node without the stake, just the hardware, is equivalent to 250 Ghost nodes. So I can run 250 Ghost nodes, and it's going to be costing me the same as one Hyperliquid node. That's without the stake. Plus stake on top of it. Crazy. They're changing the game, guys. Absolutely. They're more decentralized than Coinbase. Probably they are. Coinbase is one node and they have 5 nodes. I mean, that's 10x growth, right? That's 10x difference. That's fucking crossing the chasm. Pushing the envelope. Sui. So I didn't want to look into Sui, ever, because I kind of knew that it's complete bullshit. But, so, I mean, I didn't know how bad that was. So, currently, I'm not kidding, that's on their website, $90 million is their minimum stake to become a node validator. $90 million. Now, they realize it's a little bit too much, so they are making a SIP gracious, of course, SIP 39 proposal. It's SUI improvement proposal number 39 to drop the minimum stake from $90 million to just $7.2 million. So you want to be a validator, no problem. Just put in $7.2 million and you're fine. Anybody has this money. Of course, they say that. But they say, this large $90 million, this large amount, literally in their proposal quote, this large amount makes it too difficult for new validators to join SUI. And $7.2 million will be not that difficult to join SUI anymore. It's going to be a lot easier to join fucking SUI network. And this is yellow. This is how many yellow they have. Okay. So, I mean, they are just technological projects pretending to be Web3, completely Web 2.5, trying to get evaluations. And of course, as technological projects, what do they want? They want to maximize profit for the team and for the VC investors. What else would they do? Retail investors, who cares about retail? Who cares about you guys? Who cares about me? Nobody cares about us. That's not the objective. The objective is not to change the world. The objective is to make money with these protocols. I did not know it was like I did not know it was myself that it was that severe. But after digging deeper, I'm like, oh my goodness. Every single time I dig deeper, I'm like, my fucking god, I just cannot believe this bullshit. Imagine how many investors, how many lemmings believe in SUI, with all due respect to the people, right? But like they don't read, they don't and this is in their documentation. Like I'm not taking Reddit like some hidden chats, like teams, rumors. No, this is they're bragging about this. They're bragging about how decentralized they are because they want to drop this down to $7.2 million minimum stake. It's crazy. Oh, by the way, we're gonna look into APY of SUI in a second as well. You'll be shocked. Hedera. So Hedera at least say that they're permissioned. They have 34 enterprises, minimum stake just $85 million, 256 gigabytes of RAM. Like we cannot even imagine what type of machine that is with 24 cores. And these are their validators: Google, IBM, Tata Consultancy, Standard Bank, Hitachi, Nomura, Vipro, etc. Whoever they can get. Nobody can become a validator at this point. By the way, these are top 30 blockchains. These are top proof of stake blockchains from the top 30 projects on CoinMarketCap. Right? So of course some of these projects are stablecoins, so we cannot analyze them. So we are only going for the proof of stake blockchain. And finally, Solana. So Solana says, hey, listen, we are permissionless, guys. We are fucking permissionless. Anybody can become a validator, guys. We are very decentralized. Anybody can become a validator. But right on the website, voting for each validator also requires sending a vote transaction for each block the validator agrees with, which can cost up to 1.1 SOL per day. So simple, 1.1 SOL per day times 365 days, roughly $80,000 annual fee. Now the APY, and we're going to talk about this APY because it's not real, 6.5%. So okay, it makes sense to do this for 6.5%. So then if 80 grand is 6.5%, then the minimum stake you need to have is $1.2 million. Otherwise, it's just simply unprofitable. But anybody can validate. Do you understand? Do you understand how they bullshitting everybody? Like anybody can. They're not putting this 1.2 mil, although they could have, they should have, but they're not saying that. So you really need to have this 1.2 million stake to make sure that you're breaking even. Contingent upon 6.5 million stake in 6.5% stake in is organic APY, but it's not. 6.5%, huge portion of that is synthetic. We're going to show in a second. The requirements are absolutely insane. 256 gigabytes, 12 cores, 2 terabytes in storage. Now, super minority, they have 1,000 validators or so. 22 nodes out of those 1,000 nodes is controlling 33% of the stake. 22 nodes, guys. It's crazy. So this is the rough costs. Annual costs. Ghost is about $60 per year. And Solana is about 20 grand per year. And on top of this, you have to have a stake. Okay? So that's the decentralization. Now, if some of you guys listen to say, oh, 20 grand a year is not nothing, it's like I can afford it. You can afford it. Look at this. Look at people in the world. How many people can afford 20 grand a year for a token that will be fucking collapsing? But Solana is growing. Okay, Solana is growing for some time, but I'll show it to you in a second why it will not be growing, because there's no adoption there. Okay, let's go. So of course we say no KYC jurisdictions whitelists. Like some people come and say, hey, do I need to get whitelisted? Well, of course, with all these fuckers, you probably need to get whitelisted. Of course, no whitelists, no KYC, no jurisdictions ever. You can come from the bad countries, from the good countries, you'll be able to validate Ghost. Whitelists, no. KYC, no. None of this bullshit. Okay? That's if you want to become a validator. Open source, we have to emphasize it because Hyperliquid is not open source. Uniswap v4 is not open source anymore. Liz0 is not open source ever. And as far as proof of 69 Genesis, so I was thinking about the best name for it, so I just couldn't figure it out. So we thought maybe proof of validators or whatever. But it's very important to stress this out. So the genesis of the Ghost mainnet. will be comprised of testnet validators who validated for 69 eras, meaning for 69 days. That's why it's called proof of 69 Genesis. So if you are a validator for 69 days, you will be part of the mainnet of Ghost mainnet Genesis block. Okay? Now, if you run multiple nodes, highly encouraged to do that. Every single node will receive a Genesis allocation. So that's an incentive for validators. And look at these allocations here. So Ghost is 100% goes to the validators, and that's it. Look at this, like specifically insiders and foundations. That means team, right? Like that means like, so Ethereum 20%, Binance 50% went to insiders and foundations. This is data from Messari. Very, very highly trusted. Polkadot, same thing. Significant portion, with all due respect to Polkadot, 75% went to insiders. Cardano 19, almost 20% went to insiders, and so on and so forth. So check every single one of these. I would like to cover the most important organic APY. So since we have Vita money, so let's look at organic APY. So total APY promised by a blockchain is a combination of organic APY and synthetic APY. So synthetic APY is inflation or hidden inflation, such as subsidies. Organic APY is actual APY comprised of transaction fees, right, tips, MEV, and in case of Ghost, bridging fees. Because we realize that organic APY, if it's just transaction fees, it's just not going to be sufficient. But transaction fees is at least sustainable. It's just very tiny. However, it's just not enough. And we will see why is it not enough. So these are the APYs for all these blockchains. You're like, oh, cool. I don't care. I don't care that it takes me like for Cosmos, like, I don't know, thousands of dollars to run a node. I can make 17.4% APY. I don't care. It's amazing. I can make almost 20%. Fuck yeah, sign me up. I'll run a node. Tomcoin, I don't care. Whatever you say, I don't care. 4.6%, it's amazing. Polkadot, 11.6%. Solana, 7%. I don't care that it's heavy on hardware requirements or stake. I can make 7%. It's an investment. I'm an entrepreneur. Okay. If you're a stupid entrepreneur, then you just eat it up. And that's what most people do. But if you start looking deeper, so let's look at this. So another infographics, and that's probably going to be the last one for the day. So every single green box is organic APY in isolation. Yeah. Now, the red is essentially inflation adjusted, right? So, like in case of Sui, you can see, right? So Sui, remember, like insane requirements, like as far as stake, everything, promises 2.1%. But the inflation is about 33%. So your APY is 2.1, inflation is 33, so your net gain is this. Purely negative. You're losing money. You're losing about 31%. Despite about 15 grand in annual server costs and about 90 million minimum stake, which of course will be graciously dropped down to 7.2%. Now, why do we care about inflation? Because the token price will literally be diluted unless there's new cash. But then Sui has to organize new cash in the amount of 31%. Are they going to be able to do it? I mean, if you want to take that risk, take that risk as a validator. Be my guest. I wouldn't fucking do it. It's fucking stupid. Okay, but that's my opinion. Okay, Dogecoin, proof of work. So Dogecoin, the inflation is actually negative 3.3%. They do mint 5 billion new coins. Dogecoin price can still go up, but if there's no new cash, the price will be diluted by 3% every single year. Okay, that's Doge. Cosmos. Cosmos says we up 17.4%. Our APY is 17.4%. Nothing can stop us. Yes, nothing except for inflation, which is 19%. So net, you're negative with Cosmos. You're actually losing money on Cosmos. So if you are validated for Cosmos, you're losing money on your rewards, right? You have to spend money on the stake, and you have to spend money on the stake. You have to also spend the opportunity cost of staking with Cosmos as opposed to putting your money in the bank. And you also have to pay the server costs. And then the question is that the money that we deserve? Is that the money that we are they technological geniuses over there with Cosmos? Well, the genius of Cosmos was raising shit ton of money on ICO. That was fucking genius. How they raised, I think they raised like $200+ million or whatever, or $100+ million. That was genius. Everything else, not so much. Monero, like it or not, same inflation. They call it tail emission. So it's about 86 basis points Is it correct? Yeah, 86 basis points, so 0.86% annual inflation. So if there's no new cash in Monero, the price will be dropping by 0.86% every single year. If there's no inflow of cash into the ecosystem. Bitcoin, same thing. But wait, Bitcoin went up 6x. Yeah, it did go up by 6x because there's massive inflow of cash. But if there's no inflow of cash, it will be dropping. The price will be dropping by 0.8%, 80 basis points every single year. Cardano, look at that, Cardano. So the inflation is 2.37%. Sorry, the APY is 2.37%. The inflation is only 2.29. So the transaction fees are 0.08%. And that's where we start, right? So this is the first positive organic chain. And so far, Cardano, by the way, is probably best of the worst outside of Ghost. Because the server costs are kind of minimal, and there's a tiny bit, 0.08% of upside. Now, of course, if I can make more than 0.08%, so 4% in the bank, I would do that. So 0.08%, while it's organic, is just not enough. Okay, just not enough. Gone. 4.6%, okay, advertised APY, but again, 3.7% hidden subsidy. Inflation 0.6%, public information. So your real APY is just 0.3%, 3 boxes. Each box is 0.1%. So your APY is 0.3%. Again, you have to put massive stake. You have to put massive server costs. How is that for the people? That's for enterprises. That's absolutely just for enterprise. So now the question is, if enterprise validating your data, why do you need Tron? Because enterprise already validated my data. I go to the bank, and enterprise validated my data. I go to hospital, and enterprise validated my data. Does it have to be on blockchain? No, like I don't control it. That's the point. And with Tron, I also don't control it. So what's the difference? What are they trying to do? Solana with this massive cost, $1.2 million of stake. Solana's official APY is 7.1%, inflation is 6.5%. The transaction fees is just 0.6%. That's it. 0.6%. Bank offers me 4%. S&P 500 gives me whatever, 10, 8, 10, whatever, right? So, I mean, be my guest. Ethereum is kind of beginning, right? Like it's kind of starting, at least something, material. So you have 2.5% APY, and inflation is 0.3%. Sometimes inflation was actually 0. So Ethereum, one of the better protocols out there, only gives you about 2.2% in transaction fees. So, right, like that's at least sustainable. So actual purely organic APY, 2.2%. Something, right? So, and again, one of the top protocols. Polkadot, again, surprisingly, 11.6% validated APY, but inflation is massive 8%. So I didn't actually know, but Polkadot is actually doing quite well. 3.6% proof of stake blockchain, 3.6% net APY upside, kind of okay. At least with token, right? But again, that's without the server costs. So you have to subtract server costs from that. You also have to subtract the opportunity cost of sticking your minimum stake with Polkadot as opposed to putting that stake into the bank, right? So like makes sense, right? So like let's assume that server was completely free, electricity was free, and there was no stake. You would make 3.6%. But then you put the opportunity cost. Like let's assume you put $1 million into stake, right, of Polkadot, but that $1 million could have earned you 4% elsewhere, right? And you're not earning that with Polkadot. So therefore you have to subtract that from the 3.6% net. So it's very difficult to be profitable with Polkadot. And same with Tron. Tron so far, So, by the way, Polkadot's information 11.6%. I'm not sure if that's even correct. It's extremely difficult to find that information online. It's not available. They don't have it. Ethereum, they have all the info. Polkadot, 11.6%. I'm not sure if that's correct. I'm pretty sure that it's highly over-exaggerated. It's probably because I've seen like that's the best case scenario. I've seen other cases where it's 8%. I've seen where it's 7.7%. I've seen not the net, the gross, right, instead of 11.6. I've seen where it was 9.8%. So this is like the absolute most positive scenario for Polkadot. For Tron, same thing. They do not publish this anywhere. It's Web3. It's supposed to be transparent. They don't publish shit. So it's 3.5% best case because they said once they earned up to 3.5% APY. That was the highest APY possible. Now they have deflation, not inflation. They have deflation 1.1%. That they publish. So we're looking at 4.6%. So Tron so far, the best. So far we're looking at maybe Tron, if this information is correct, maybe Polkadot, if this information is correct, Ethereum. Everything else just makes no sense to mine. And then nobody's mining it. And those who do those are enterprises. to make money of you guys. Maybe they're collecting data, sell it. Maybe they're analyzing some data. Maybe they're doing some KYC shit on you, whatever. They are technical companies. Of course, I'm not taking Bitcoin into consideration, or Monero, or Doge. Those are proof of work. I included them just as a comparison matrix. What about Ghost? You see, so let's just see, like each box, like you see, like red, lots of red, a little bit less, a little bit less. Boom, 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 right? What a Ghost. Okay, let's go. This is Ghost. Whoop, whoop. It just keeps fucking going. It just keeps going. Oh, I'm scrolling still. Oh, I just finished. Why? Because we don't rely on transactional fees as our only source of organic APY, because that's fucking stupid. Like, transaction fees means that your chain has to be super usable. And so far, I didn't know that Tron was somewhat usable and Polkadot, but I knew Ethereum was like the only usable chain that at least has verifiable information that I can absolutely like say, yes, that's true. Polkadot and Tron, those are the best case scenarios, not necessarily true. Ghost relies on bridging fees as a source of organic APY. Transaction fees is also part of it, sure, but bridging fees is the most important one. So far, on the Tesla and Casper 4.0, our APY is 194.5%. Round this to 200. That is 10x. Now, Mr. IDK specifically, right? Like, match that for the story. Match that with insanely low requirements to run a node. That's what I call people money. Takes nothing to run a node, and you fucking gain everything. And that's why it's important for us right now, for everybody who's listening right now, to run as many nodes as possible. Once this thing goes mainnet, what's going to happen? If the bridging fees will start striking, what's going to happen? Validators will flood the network because requirements are so tiny. It's nothing. At first, we'll probably have just one Ghost as minimum stake. So all you have to do, buy a little bit of Ghost, one Ghost, buy maybe 1.5 Ghost, right, for transaction fees on Ghost DAO, push the fucking price up, obviously, every single purchaser, and then start staking this on your home machine. And that's your passive income. That's a proposal. That's a proposition. It's not a proposition with Cosmos, because the machine is expensive. It's not a proposition with Tron. It's only the proposition with Ghost to make 200% APY. Of course, this is not this information is based on the past data, not future data. In the future, it may change. There's disclaimers, blah blah. Today, it's 200%, and we don't have any arbitrage opportunities between cross-chain stuff yet, which will significantly increase that APY. And we're not even the bridge of choice. Nobody knows about us yet. Imagine the APY. Imagine how many users will flood to run nodes. So run nodes today. Like as many as you can. Learn through this fucking thing. Because it will be late. Because somebody will figure out how to run shit ton of nodes. And they will. And they will not only overtake the network, they will also overtake your profit. Because the profit, this 200% APY, will be split amongst all validators. The more validators, the lesser the reward per validator. So it's easy to imagine how you could have 50,000 validators. Why not? Imagine what the price is going to be on the DEX. Imagine how difficult will it be to enter through the DEX, because the price is going to be so fucking high. Because this is a business proposition. This is a 10x money. And I'm not even talking about the Vita concept yet. Right? This is just numbers. Okay, so hopefully you liked it. I just need to go. But really, really wanted to cover this article today because it took so much time. Okay, there's a little bit more information as well down the road. So this article will be published tomorrow. Please share with anybody who is looking. Well, let's not forget that entry and exit are completely anonymous and trustless. If you want to exit Sui network, what you got to do? You got to go to the SEX KYC yourself. Blah blah blah. Nothing with Ghost. Completely anonymous entry and exit. Completely anonymous entry and exit. You made billions of dollars with Ghost, let's assume. Okay, it's up to you to report or not. You don't have to fucking go to KYC. Do your thing. Make a decision, right? If you're going to be sleeping well at night, sleep well at night. You know what I mean? No hints. Wink, wink. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. This article will be published tomorrow. Share this with everybody. This is the article to be shared. On this positive note, have a good one, and I will